Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing our discussion with Dr. Hafez Salmawy. Sir, you were explaining how it was really a crisis management sort of strategy to make up for the power and electrical outages that Egypt has been suffering from. Now, you've mentioned different axes that the government has been working on, and you've mentioned also that there was a plan that Egypt has been or was going to undertake and was delayed by the political turmoils that were set. So the plan was already set before the 2011, for instance, revolution, or was it set and implemented after the power outages, or did it need remodification of a plan that was set earlier? How was it?
Actually, the plan started maybe I don't mean as a crisis, started a little bit 2010, 2009, but it was not that serious and it was manageable at that time. And even we have an emergency plan in 2011, first emergency plan to recover back. But it wasn't that serious at that time and it was manageable. But even the emergency plan was delayed. It was expected to be implemented 2011 and 12. So it was also delayed. So this makes it more serious, the problem. So this is why the first emergency plan, which was taking place 2015 for 8 months, building 3.2 gigawatt of new plants and recovering back or bringing back project which has been delayed in implementation, 3 gigawatt. In addition to 1 gigawatt was added as improving maintenance, where a tariff reform program back in 2014 was executed. So this has helped in recovering. And the word you mentioned about crisis management is exactly, this was phase 1 of the plan. Now, as by May 2015, we don't have any rotating shutdowns at that time. But we just bring the system into balance. We're still relying on gas import. Now, the government start to look for a longer term and have what you could call it a midterm plan. A midterm plan where we start to have the contracts for the 3 large mega plants, 14.4 gigawatt of large plants, so you could recover, as well as the expansion, normal expansion in the system. It ended by 2019 that the total added capacity was 30 gigawatt. Just to imagine, we have 30 gigawatt at 2011, now we have 60 gigawatt. So we doubled our capacity within 5 years. This 30 gigawatt, which was before, built over 100 years since electricity has been introduced. Just in 5 years, you double it. So this is a substantial achievement. Just to imagine how much this plant cost, actually adding this 30 gigawatt cost us around $16 billion. We have $8 billion of gas import till 2018, which I'm going to talk later about gas availability, which came, so 24. And then we have another $3 billion for expanding the transmission system, because new plants, you couldn't make use of them unless they are connected to the grid and you expand and extend your grid. So you have another $3 billion and $1 billion to improve distribution system.
Yes, so the doubling of our electricity production was only mainly because of the 3 power plants that were built by Siemens?
The 3 power plants were just 15, close to 15. But there is another 15 which is added. 6 was added through the emergency plan, and 9 gigawatt of other additional plants which is added during that time, which was the normal expansion plan for the electricity sector.
And by that time we stopped importing gas?
No, actually we were lucky, as we was discussing in the break. At the time in August 2015, Zohr was discovered. Actually, which is another success story, because the site of the Zohr was first given a concession for one of the largest companies in the world, and they came out say, we haven't found anything in Zohr. But people in the petroleum sector was clever enough, they say, no, the seismic measurements tell us that something is there. We are sure that there is something. So they offer it another concession where at that time another Italian company came and they discovered Zohr. Zohr was a mega size, the largest field which has been discovered in the Eastern Mediterranean along its history. So this is the lucky thing about that. But the success story that normally this kind of large fields needs a very long time to be developed, because not just to discover, you need to develop, build infrastructure in order to be ready to produce. Just to give you an example, the Levansan gas field in Israel was discovered in 2009. It haven't started production till 2019. It took 10 years to be developed. And Levansan is just half the size of Zohr. Zohr was developed just in 2 years. So Zohr started to produce in 2017, and then the production developed gradually to full capacity by 2018. By that time, October 2018, we stopped importing gas. So we become gas sufficient, self-sufficient, and in starting in 2019 and 20, we start to export gas. So this is another success story. This cost $12 billion to develop Zohr. So it wasn't that easy, and this is cost of fortune. And this is why it's very much important to protect and keep these wells. Because if we imagine, no country could do this every time and then. This is substantial.
Dr. Salmawy, it doesn't end there. So we actually worked on producing electricity through renewable energy resources. So we established the windmills at Ras Gharib, also the solar plants in Bin Ben, which is now considered the 4th biggest in the world. Now, when did the government decide that, you know what, maybe we should start producing electricity through renewable energy? I mean, that was even before the COP27 climate change conference in Sharm el-Sheikh. Before, I mean, combating climate change has been really high on the agenda of the whole world, but Egypt has really took an early lead in trying to produce electricity through renewable energy instead of fossil fuels and gas. What triggered the government to start thinking or diversify its electricity production in that sense?
As you said, the plan was 3 phases. Phase 1 was crisis management. The second phase was sustaining the system and reach a kind of stability so we don't get to such condition again. The third phase was to reach sustainability and what we call it energy transition. This is a trend around the world because now all the world is moving towards what we call it sustainable energy sectors, where it means that we will reduce our reliance more on fossil fuel and rely more on renewable energy to reduce emissions. Also take care of energy efficiency, because it doesn't mean that you generate energy or generate electricity and misuse it. And the third component is what we call it digitalization, which means that to convert your system to be a smart system through digitalizing that system, as well as electrification, which means that moving toward electrifying some sectors. In that aspect, in 2016, the government approved the Egypt Energy Strategy 2035, which means that now we should have a vision 20 years ahead to be sure that what going, and we doing a kind of updating this strategy every 5 years. So now we are concluding the 2040 strategy. So we usually keep ourselves seeing 20 years ahead. In that strategy, it says that we need to diversify our electricity mix. So we need to have 42% renewable by 2035. Now we are talking 70% by 2040. Why is that? Because prices of renewable energy has been dropped substantially over the last 10 years. So start now renewable energy much cheaper than producing electricity from conventional plants. So it's best fit to have much more renewable energy because usually the target how I could generate electricity at the most affordable price to consumer with the minimum impact on environment.
Yes.
So this is what we call it the objective function for doing that. So the energy strategy, based on the energy strategy, new renewable energy law has been passed. The new electricity law has been passed, which is open and liberalize the market, which is another phase in future. And based on that, Benban was built based on issued the feed-in tariff system where Benban was built, also expansion in Jabal al-Zayt wind plant, and just the last week, a 10 gigawatt deal of wind plant was signed with 2 Egyptian investors and 1 Emirati. It's a consortium of 3 companies. In addition, in COP27, Ministry of Environment has proposed an initiative which is called NWAFI. NWAFI, it's a nexus between water, food, and energy. NWAFI, N-W-F-E. E is an energy. For the energy sector, the target is another gigawatt, 10 gigawatt of renewable plant against phasing out 5 gigawatt of conventional plant. So you reduce your carbon footprint on that. So now we are moving based on this strategy, which is to reach sustainability, to reduce the cost of electricity, to make it available, and to boost the economy, because as you have cheaper energy prices, you could have much better export, you're going to have much more competitive, become much more competitive.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Benban solar power plant is actually considered one of the 4th biggest in the world, which is quite a quantum leap in Egypt's steps in producing electricity. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.